are here at the World Agri-Tech Summit in Dubai, and we are setting up for an exciting discussion with key thought leaders. We have Silal, Agritecture, RedSea, and Temasek, and we are just about to go in.
We're excited and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining our roundtable discussion. We are very happy to have all of you here with us to discuss Agritech and its pathway towards food security in the region. To kick us off, we would like to take a stab at describing the key challenges and pain points facing food security in the region. We all know today food security is a top priority for government and leadership here in the GCC, and that's not without reason, right? There are many different climate challenges. The landscape is arid, water is scarce, food is majorly imported. The UAE itself imports 80 to 90% of its food today, and has very ambitious targets towards lowering that percentage to 50% by 2051.
What most people don't realize is that actually the bigger crisis we have today on the planet is not calorie crisis, it's a nutrient crisis. And as we think about food supply chains, like what you were talking about, and countries sending in produce as an opportunity for both, exporting the dollar, but also, just to create trade and to create livelihoods. I think we need to think not just regionally, but globally about these supply chains and how we can both make them more sustainable and resilient, but also create win-win situations for the planet.
So we heard a lot about technology today with Iris from RedSea. Yesterday as well, there was a new technology for desalinated water from desalinator. What are key technological advancements you are seeing today that are helping us be more sustainable, but also reduce our unit costs? Perhaps things you are seeing in the region or abroad?
On the AI side, on the biotechnology side, we're really seeing a revolution with respect to what we see in next generation genetics, particularly with the use of gene editing technologies. Some of the work in CRISPR, we think that this has the capability to rapidly adapt our food crops to be more resilient with respect to climate change, but making crops more tolerant to things like salt, making them more resistant to drought, more tolerant to temperature and heat, or even making them more nutritious. What's interesting is, we're seeing a lot of innovation on the micro side as well, both with respect to the microbiome that coexists with these crops, on the crops or in the soil. And then finally, we're finding, unique and novel ways to get microbes to do work for us. So, the ability to produce proteins recombinantly has been known for a really long period of time, but many companies are pushing the innovation with respect to reducing the cost of this precision fermentation technology to really be able to access at very low dollar amount certain food ingredients, including things like proteins, or even something like an egg protein or a dairy protein can be produced in a bioreactor in a manner that's kind of completely disconnected from a farm or from the environment. Those technologies are still currently relatively high cost.
I think, for example, when we think about a lot of the technology we're building around farms, we think not as much about the seeds themselves.
Yeah.
Right, we're trying to create the environments to grow these plants instead of breeding the plants to engage with these technologies in a specific way. I think that's a huge opportunity as well. Certainly anything related to automation as labor prices increase and we have food safety challenges is appealing to me. But I think one of the key problems there is how do we actually finance the automation? I think there's a lot of automation solutions out there, whether it's robotics for fields, etc. But the solutions for farmers to actually buy them and calculate that ROI or finance them seem to be lacking. So I think that's an area that could use more attention as well. And then again, I'm a big fan of Iris because I just got to visit the facility at RedSea, but I think really specific tech that's not crazy expensive is the biggest win. Because a lot of the colleagues have already mentioned, most of the farmers are relatively low tech. So, how do we help them make small incremental developments that can make massive differences? Because I think in Agritech, one of the biggest mistakes we make is let's build new farms, let's focus on the new approach. We have to think about the existing farmers first, because if we're frankly not supporting them, we are really just cutting ourselves at the knees of the foundation of the food system. It doesn't matter how much tech you have, the farmers are the ones in the end doing the work. So, you have to enable them first.
Are we seeing adoption of a lot of these technology that both of you mentioned, solution for farmers?
We're not seeing adoption of these farmers because I think that there's a couple of competing activities that are happening. And the farmers we're talking about in the UAE, they are on the lower level of literacy than the rest of the UAE. So we actually have to visit them. We have to meet them where they are. And if you go to the Agritech conferences in this region, they're not at those conferences. They're not there. They're not engaging in it. They're not learning about the new technologies.
For example. Now that farmer is getting their information somehow, from a crop input company, from an agronomist, from a trusted advisor. And I think that there's always going to be this human element in farming, particularly in smallholders. But I think the ability to provide the best information, like we've seen in other domains like telemedicine, I think that can be greatly expanded and contextualized using some of these techniques. Now, it may not be the delivery is some app on an iPad interfacing with a chatbot that's in the metaverse, right? It's probably still with the trusted advisor that farmer is working with, but they're armed with a new set of capabilities and tools. Whether that's a venture capital investor or private equity investor, particularly like Temasek. So, we would probably think about technologies that are broader than just the region. That can have a impact in broad parts of the world, or even globally, in order to have that type of market size. We do think a lot about technologies that can scale, that can be applicable around the world.
We're talking about, at the end of the day, agriculture, aside from, if you're growing, high value orchids in a very, unique fashion, it's a commodity, and so the margins are tight. Your family's life depends on this, and making sure it's affordable, accessible, it's simple, the value proposition is clear, and it's low risk. And so we have to be aiming for that with all of our technology.
Henry, you published recently, a list of indoor farms that went bankrupt, aerofarms on top of that list. How can we ensure the commercial viability of, agri-tech players, specifically in our region?
So one of the most common mistakes I see is that people are obsessed with the technology without the market research. But if you look at the market can tell you what are the gaps in the market, how many consumers want to buy a certain product, how they want it packaged, and what they're willing to pay for it. But most people planning new greenhouses, vertical farms, don't do that market research appropriately. So there's a lot that the government can do to actually share information about that. If we want the right kinds of farms, we can actually publish market data. We can actually lead by saying these are the gaps in the market, because now we're directing investment and interest towards the actual specific gaps in the market, not just a general, let's grow as much food as possible year-round as we can. Now, in addition to the market research gap, there are specific economic models and models for success that will or won't work. So why don't we just actually pre-design these models and actually make them more accessible to reduce the level of failure that is so likely with new farms?
Whether that's a venture capital investor or private equity investor, particularly like Temasek. So, we would probably think about technologies that are broader than just the region. That can have a impact in broad parts of the world, or even globally, in order to have that type of market size. We do think a lot about technologies that can scale, that can be applicable around the world.
We have spoken in bits and pieces about what governments can do. They could, make data more accessible and, provide more guidance. They could, help with raising maybe consumer kind of acceptance and helping change consumer trends. Anything else that we have not touched upon already today that governments in the GCC could do to enable, one, the promotion of agri-tech and the acceptance of agri-tech in the market?
Providing, maybe switching the subsidies more towards let's actually pay market rates for electricity and water, but we'll subsidize adoption of technologies that'll actually make, at the end of the day, you're going to pay the same, right? So that's a win for the government, it's a win for the planet, and it's a win for, the farmer.
Thank you so much, everyone.
The agricultural sector in the Middle East face a number of challenges. There is lack of agricultural labor, the sector capabilities are underdeveloped, the agricultural yields are low, soil fertility and soil salinity is an issue. There are shortages in resources, including arable land and water. In order to overcome these challenges, Middle Eastern countries need to further adopt Agritech. Agritech provides a wide array of solutions that would enhance agricultural yields, optimize resources, and reduce emissions.
One of the key learnings I got out of it was how we can encourage the adoption of agri-tech in the region. And three key things that came out of it. First is identifying the right technology to push forward. Second is to ensure that we have the right knowledge sharing to our farmers in order to have science-based evidence of the benefits that agri-tech can provide. And third, certain incentives that can be provided as well to the farmers in order to adopt these technology.
The tech provided to farmers should be simple, addressing their issues, affordable and accessible.
We just had a fascinating and rich discussion with multiple thought leaders about agri-tech and its contribution to the pathway towards food security in the region. We discussed pain points and challenges and touched upon key enablers for the region to adopt. We spoke about the importance of enabling local talent development, about disseminating and ensuring access to data and market insights, creating partnerships and collaborations between different players, be it from the public or the private sector, and finally creating the right level of incentives, not only towards development of agri-tech, but also its adoption.
It's very important to link these incentives to the food security targets and make sure that these are being done in a sustainable way.